Hello Year 5 and 6, thank you so much for your wonderful drawings of MPs. It was really interesting to see who drew men, women, what kind of clothes you put them in, whether you thought that they were caring, friendly, and on the whole, most of you seem to have quite a positive image of MPs. You think that they are quite professional and that they are friendly and listen to young people. So that was pretty good to hear. In terms of what we're going to do this term, so Mrs. Kern and I would like you to pretend to be MPs, and you are going to start thinking about things that you'd like changed in your local area and across the country as a whole. And we're going to be doing that over the next term. But before we do that, we also want you to realise that it's not just MPs who are involved in politics. There's lots and lots of different people who shape our lives and make key decisions for us. And it's also really important that we understand that we are really important in terms of making political changes and worldwide changes even. So before we get into policies, which we'll do next week, we want you to have a look at this sheet. And it's all about all the different people who influence us in our everyday lives, sometimes on an everyday basis, sometimes maybe month to month or year to year. And this sheet takes you through a step-by-step guide of what we would like you to do. So the first thing you need to do is to have a look at this top section. And if you have a look at A, it says write down one thing that you could do to have an impact at each level. So for example, it says what could you do to have an influence in your community? So that might be something like volunteering to do something. How could I influence things in my country? You might write a letter to an organisation to try to improve things, or you might sign a petition. After you've done that, we want you to think of something else that you might influence. It says fill in the final level, so that's up here, of influence. Think of one more place that you could have an impact that is personal to you. For example, your team, your band, your church, your mosque, your blog. So something that you do. For me, I volunteer at Chelmsford Swimming Club sometimes, so I could put how I have an influence up there. You might be in a team sport, at school. You might be in the orchestra. You might be in ICT club. Anything where you're involved in something and you're helping to make decisions. After you've done that, this is where you start to find out about the everyday people who shape your actual political lives and how you live in your local area. So down here we've got MPs and we've got councillors and we've got local role models. Now the MEPs, because we've left Europe, we're going to forget about those people. But you need to find out who your MP is. And you all did that 2 weeks ago, so hopefully you should be able to fill that one in. My one is John Whittingdale. And then you need to find out who your councillors are. If you're not sure, because I didn't know who my councillors were until I looked them up, you can have a look at this here. You type into Google writetothem.com and it will tell you who your local councillors are and who your MP is, and if you've forgotten. So you write those in there. So by now, you should have a good idea of the real life people that influence you in your local area politically, and you should also have a good idea about how you actually influence things, because remember, if we don't get involved in our local community, if we don't get involved at school, if we don't get involved in things that are happening nationally, nothing ever changes. We are the most important people. And I'll remind you that at the beginning of the year, I told you that democracy is people power. So keep reminding yourself that you are central to politics. And that's what we want you to remember today, that there are these people here and they shape our everyday lives, but if we don't get involved, then nothing changes. Now, fill this out. If you can't print it off, because, there's been so much printing lately, your parents might have run out of paper or ink, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just copy out the terms and write it underneath, because I ran out of ink just before Easter and it was a pain. So I am very happy for you to write this out and write it in. If you do manage to print it out, you can do the final thing, which is over here, how to build a megaphone. Now the megaphone looks like, where is it? This. I couldn't make it. Mrs. Kern had to make it for me because I cut it out in the wrong way, even though it's pretty straightforward. So whatever you do will be a better job than what I did. So this is what it looks like at the end. And you do it by following the red lines. And don't do what I did. Don't cut this bit here. You only follow the red lines. And I'm sure that all of you will do a much better job than I did. So it is a case of cutting the red lines and then you stick down the tabs. It explains it here. If you manage to do it, take a picture of yourself, send it to me with your megaphone of all the people who are really, really important in politics. And it's meant to be symbolic of how important we are and how important all these people are in shaping lives. So, good luck. And if you want to get ahead of next week's lesson, we're going to be looking at key policies such as immigration, education, welfare, defence. And I'm going to be asking you to find out what those things are and then think about which ones you think are the most important things for the government to tackle. The following week, you're going to be having a think about your own policies. So writing up education policies. What do you think should be changed in education? What do you think should be changed in the healthcare system? But for now, good luck with this, and I'm looking forward to seeing the result.